This is the time of the year when you're watching people post graduation and commencement photos on social media. I'm seeing kids graduate preschool, middle school, high school, college. I just saw one of our listeners' son get his PhD. I mean, this is just really cool stuff, right? This is the time of the year that makes you sit back and reflect on what it is you thought you were going to do with your life.
We always have an odd one in the crowd.
So it's kind of odd.
Decidedly odd.
Doesn't that strike you as a little bit odd?
No, that doesn't strike me as a little bit odd.
It's the Bob and Sheri Oddcast, with stuff we wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't do on the regular show. Now, here's the Oddcast.
I don't know about you guys, but one of my personal pet fascinations is finding out what people thought they were going to do with their life compared to what they're actually doing. Now, there are some of us who know from childhood, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher. When I grow up, I want to be a mechanical engineer, right? We all know at least one person, don't we, who knew what they wanted to be in childhood, and then they actually are that thing. I believe, Lamar, you might have a son who knew he wanted to be a doctor when he grew up.
Yeah.
And he is?
And he is, exactly.
A doctor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of us know,
Alex, my daughter Alex, she wanted to be a vet from the
veterinarian.
Get-go, and she's a vet, yes.
So some of us have known all along what we wanted to be, and some of us know people who've known all along. But there are a lot of us walking around in the world who very much thought, as we were sitting there in our cap and gown, whether it was, high school, college, whatever, listening to Pomp and Circumstance and feeling very sure of where we were headed, only to look back and realize you're doing something completely and totally different with your life. So I want to start with Max, because Max always wanted to work in radio and as an actor. That's true?
That is
right?
true. Yeah, that is.
So how old were you when you knew?
So I was, when I started, so I wanted to become a Roman Catholic priest as a child. And then I spent my first 2 years at a high school seminary. And then after I came out of that, I got interested in working in the radio business and wanted to act, but didn't really start pursuing that until I was into my 30s. So, so those are two things that I always wanted to do. And it's very interesting, that when I took one of those, they take a test about what you're good at when you're in high school. I don't know if you ever took one of these tests, but they did with us. And mine came out radio and ministry. And to which my mother replied, You cajoled the test. You did it to make it like that. It's like I would have no way to answer the questions to make it come out that. But I think it's interesting that those are the things that I was interested in, and those are the things that it said I was best suited for.
The tests that we took in high school, we did the Myers-Briggs, and I remember my results were INTJ, and I was so upset by that because of the way that the teacher who went through our results with us, she made it sound like people that are introverts live under bridges and steal billy goats and stuff. Like, she just did not make it sound very appealing. And you always want to be an extrovert, the life of the party. But I'm not actually. I'm really not at all that. And I remember being so crushed by that. But among the occupations that were recommended for me was journalism, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to be was not that. What I wanted to be was an anthropologist. I wanted to do research, and I wanted to be a professor. So I'm in the media. I'm not a journalist, but I am a writer. And I do research, and a lot of the stuff I do for our other podcast, True Weird Stuff, is definitely anthropology. I mean, it's like I'm always like digging into culture and stuff. But yeah, Max. So we're going to pause here, and we're going to see about Lamar and Doc. But at least the two of us, we're 2 for 2 of getting in the neighborhood of what we thought we were going to be when we grew up.
But no, I think what you do with True Weird Stuff and the research and everything else, it is journalism. I mean,
yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's just crazy, I can't wait. I can't wait for Doc and Lamar because they're both such enigmas in very different ways. So let's go to Doc. Doc, what is it you thought you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, so I didn't really have a thought about that growing up. Um, did I ever tell y'all the story about how I essentially got into radio by accident?
No. Tell.
Tell it.
So my junior and senior year of high school, I ended up taking a bunch of art classes and kind of had made my mind up at that point that that I was going to go to college and major in graphic design. Well, I ended up graduating the summer before I'm supposed to start my freshman year. Go up to the campus, stay up there for like a 2-day freshman orientation thing. I ended up going into the wrong building. Instead of the art building, I ended up going into the communications building. And I sit down, and all of a sudden I realize I'm in the wrong place. But of course, my shy, awkward self, I can't get up and leave. So then they.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh.
So then, the presenter, the professors, they have these sheets of all the various majors and all the courses that you would take in order to get your degree. And I'm looking at the majors, and the broadcasting one is the one that's looking pretty cool because you have these classes of audio and video production. So then I decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to go into broadcasting. Well, a couple of years later, I end up at the end of my junior year, I learned from my counselor, you probably need to do some type of internship. And originally, I kind of decided I was going to go into TV. Like I should be working in behind the scenes somewhere at some TV station. But I had accidentally missed the window for applying for the internship. So the only thing was left was maybe a couple of internships. So I ended up getting an internship at a radio station in Charlotte, North Carolina, working with a show called Matter Ramona in the afternoons. And then did that, went back to school, graduated, then ended up started working with them. And then somehow that's 15 years later that has turned into me now working here with Bob and Sheri.
That is the most amazing story.
It really
And
is.
and you know what it makes me think? Because as you know, Doc, my radio career is an accident too. You know what it makes me think? It makes me think that you're where you're meant to be, and it just took some crazy steering and nudging to put you there. But I have to say, now that knowing this, I'm not even a little bit surprised because your graphic design skills and your video shooting and editing is off the charts. So how not shocking, right, guys, to hear that he thought he was going to be a graphic artist, thought he was going to work in television. And now look, Doc, you get to have all three of those careers for half the price of one.
Yeah, that is very
Thank
true.
you, Tony. Round of applause.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony. So
all
if
I could
you
think
had-
about when he told that story is he's sitting there, he knows he's in the wrong place, he knows he needs to leave, but he can't. This is only going to mean something to you if you have watched Baby Reindeer. All I can think of is this is Doc doing that is like giving that freak up a tea. If he'd have just got up and left, he would not be in this thing.
and now he's in the middle of a nightmare that he can't escape.
He can't get away now.
So Doc, if you had a magic wand or a time machine and you could take yourself back where you realized you were in the wrong building at the wrong orientation, would you still stay?
I probably would, because I think it was just the allure of the courses that were offered was just so great, and it's kind of understanding now what happens behind the scenes is really of TV and radio and video is just it's a really cool area, and I don't know where I would have ended up had I ended up going into actual graphic design.
It's funny because your natural talents, because everybody, I believe, has natural abilities and natural talents. Sometimes you just have to figure out where to point them, right? But your natural talents are used all the time, every day in the job that you have. And you might not have guessed that when you were a college student, that so much of what you are naturally drawn to and good at and gifted at would be in this one place. And I think you probably had no idea what innate natural storytelling ability you have because you're shy and private, and I don't think maybe you knew that until.
Oh yeah, definitely not. And I think all of the stuff has benefited me like in this area greatly because I'm not, I don't, even to this day, I still don't see myself as really a radio guy. I'm just somebody who has some outside radio talents and using it here to kind of do various various things.
You would, if you were born 10 years later, I think you might have followed this same path, but you would have skipped the radio part and gone straight into the podcasting world. And not because radio hasn't been good to you and not because you haven't been great for radio, but if you had come along 10 years later, there are just so many fewer opportunities to even get in. And because of the change in laws around internships that happened, help me out with what year that was. A lot of radio stations now don't even bring interns in.
Probably about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have, we would have interns all year round, all the time. I still keep in touch with a lot of our interns and they're doing great. But we haven't had an intern since that law changed because the management, not us, but upper management and the corporate ownership was like, interns are too much trouble. They're more trouble than they're worth. We're not going to do it.
What happened was there were some interns who were at NBC in New York and they said, we're doing some work here and we feel like we should be paid. And they took it to court and the court said, yeah, you should be paid. And so everybody went, all right, no more interns. Because that was the thing. You could in an internship, you could make contacts and have it develop into a job. It was kind of a neat way to do it, which is what happened for you. But now that's not available anymore.
That's gone.
It's gone.
So I think that you might have still found your way to your very unique content creation niche because you really can do both visual and just straight audio. You've got you're the total package. I just don't think it would have included radio through no fault of yours at all.
Speaking of internships, we had interns, at the previous station, we had internships for our show. And the last couple of years, it was this weird thing where they would shuffle the interns around and let them sit in. At one point, I was like, what is the point of having them come in to sit around? So I would let them, run the board while I'm sitting there, watching them over. We obviously couldn't just stick them in a room to go do whatever, but
yeah, it was
there's no reason for them to be there if they aren't learning how to actually do things.
We had an intern. Oh, God. We had an intern. What a great kid. What a great, great kid he was. He dumped a glass of juice on the board in the studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the back of the board.
And the engineers were like gorgons. They were furious.
Sheri, this is what I will remember from that incident. We had to, because it caused this loud hum on the air because of something was wrong, they had to move the whole situation into another studio. And I'll never forget coming back from lunch and seeing one of the engineers with a hose in his hand and the guts of the board out there with him, with the other engineer sitting on a milk crate watching him do it. And I went, ooh, this doesn't look good.
It was bad. It was bad. It triggered the covered beverage rule. The great covered beverage rule that dogged all of us for the rest of our days in that building. But yeah, you're so right, Doc. In the beginning, the interns would come in and you were like, all right, here's how this works. And here's going to be a project for you. And by the end of it, it was like, oh, it's the intern's day to hang out with the Bob and Sheri show. We're meeting this person for the first time. They're going to be with us for 4 hours. What can really happen? What can we really give them to do?
And we could and we did bits with them and stuff on the air. It was a lot of fun when we had them. It really was. But
yeah.
And like I say, it was a great way to show that you were reliable and competent and capable, and that's gone now.
I've watched some of because you keep track of people, Facebook, and especially Facebook makes it so easy to keep track of people. I keep track of our intern Alexandra, who lives in Washington D.C. now. We had an intern named Chris who went on to work at Disney in
Right.
Orlando and now just has like a family, and he's just doing great. We had an intern named Miranda. Her nickname was her awesomeness. Miranda's daddy and brothers were backyard wrestlers, Lamar. And it was just she had the greatest stories. We just had, you know what? We had some really cool people come through the building, and it was a good experience. Many of them went on to have careers in media, not maybe on radio necessarily, but in media. I don't know that any intern achieved what you did, Doc. I really don't.
No.
I mean, you went from I'm in the wrong building to I have an internship to you're the executive producer of a big show, and now you're the wind beneath our wings. That is quite
Yeah.
that's quite a journey for somebody that found that was in the wrong building on the first day of school.
The only downside
about-
is now I can't go back to my high school people and tell them about it, because then I have to deal with the awkwardness of explaining how did I get into radio, because I was so shy and quiet back then, and I'm still shy and quiet today. But like, how do you explain to these people that you work in a medium where you have to talk 90% of the time?
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about radio is that you can forget that people are listening, because you're talking to just like 3 or 4 other people that are in the room. And so if you have stage fright or public speaking anxiety, and you're panic thinking about like an audience, radio is a way to get around that, because once you get into the groove, you do forget that you're really doing like the biggest of all public speaking jobs. Did you not find that, or has it still kind of stayed with you?
Well, it was weird because in college, public speaking was super easy. Well, for me, which is shocking to hear, I know, but working on the fly, speaking on the fly is kind of difficult, and maintaining conversations is as well. But I was also glad that working in radio, I have been around people who love to talk all the time, so that I don't have to do it.
Boy, that's the truth. How about you, Lamar? What is it you thought you were going to be?
Well, when I graduated, I had a plan to be retired at 35. I don't know what I was thinking. Didn't really work out that way. I thought sure that'd be enough time to make my fortune, and then I could just cruise, And I was going to go to college, and I really should have. My parents couldn't afford it, but back then, I mean, you could go to college, But I was working at the Oddcast store, which is like a hardware store with everything. I mean, we had TVs, we had furniture, we had appliances, car tires, car parts. I mean, it was everything. And I was making great money. I was making grown man money. And I bought me a car, and I'm living at home. This is working. I mean, this is working. And I had wanted to be, when I was a kid, I'd wanted to be a dentist. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. But then it was very intimidating, the amount of school and stuff that you had to go through, to become a dentist. So I was just enjoying, selling stuff. And so I went to, when I graduated, we went down to Myrtle Beach, and I met my first wife at Myrtle Beach, and she lived in Spartanburg, and I lived in Georgia, about an hour and a half away. And so I drove up here every weekend. And, I had a $300 phone bill every month, because back then a long distance phone call, it cost you money. You had to pay. And we was young and stupid and in love, and we got married. And once you take that step, now you got to worry about 2 people instead of just one. And a few years later, we had twins. So now I got to worry about 4 people instead of 1. So I buckled down and got into beer business, and that's what I did. And it was a good business and made a good living. I mean, that was it. So,
Made a good living, made a ton of friends, had many, many
Yeah.
adventures, right?
yeah. And if I hadn't been in that business, that would not have allowed me to have the freedom and the time to make the phone calls that brought me to this show. I mean, any other job I had, there was no way you could make phone calls at the drop of a hat like I did. Because
Yeah, you had a ton of freedom. Yeah, a ton of freedom and
Yeah.
autonomy.
And so honestly, I mean, like you say, everything lined up exactly how it needed to be. And here we are. I'm helping Doc be quiet because I'm talking all the time. So glad to be of service, Doc.
It's one of the things that, I always tried to like beat into my girls' heads. Like, you don't have to, it's great if you know exactly what you want, but you don't have to know exactly what you want when you're 17 years old. It's okay to have a general area that you want to be in, right? Like my older daughter she was just born to be an artist. Like all she's been doing is expressing herself that way since she could walk and talk. But there's a million different ways to be an artist. There's not one set journey. And if you don't walk that path, you failed. Like there's so many different ways to be an artist. And one of the things that we get really wacky and wrong in American culture is we think that if you're not making money off of it, it has no merit. Does that make sense?
Right. That's exactly right.
Oh,
if you're not monetizing it, it's not worth a damn. And I would say like Max's passion for acting. Max is a really good actor. And he's the kind of actor that takes on a part when he feels that this is a part he should take. So, and it could be serious, it could be silly. He's played Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi. He's played Sigmund Freud. He's played Beefy the Cowman in a commercial.
Yes, I have.
And sometimes he gets paid, but most of the time he doesn't. And while the applause is great and people coming to the shows and telling him that they loved it and had a great time is awesome. I've known Max for long enough and have been here for long enough to tell you completely true that it's the journey toward opening night that is why he does it.
Yeah.
It's the working to get to the curtain opening that calls him to those roles more than the applause or anything else. And so how dare you suggest that just because a person isn't getting paid for their passion, that their passion isn't worth a damn or that they haven't succeeded, right?
Yes. Find your audience, whatever it is, whether it's art or whatever it is. And if your audience is 5 people, it's 5 people. But find whatever that is. I know that I've told the story to you guys before. I probably have never told it on anything else. But I remember thinking to myself, I went to the theater one night and I was in a play that was very funny. And it was a nice ensemble show. And I remember thinking to myself, you are such a failure. You know, it's just like, oh God, if you would have
So
done
hard
this,
on
if you could
yourself.
have done this, if you would have done that, if you would have started earlier, if you I had all this stuff that was going on in mind. And we did the show, and afterwards it was an exhausting show to do. And this woman came up and she said, these 2 people want to talk to you after the show. And I said, all right, fine. I came down, this man and this woman, I didn't know who they were. Never met them before in my life. And they said to me, hey, we just want you to know that we've had a lot of tragedy in the past couple of years. This is the first time we've been out in a long time, and the first time we've laughed together in a long, long time. And we wanted to thank you for that. And I remember thinking to myself, we think of things in terms of Tom Cruise and people that are big Hollywood stars. We don't think in terms of find your place, do it, and then bloom where you're planted. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think that people don't understand. You're right. People think that it's money and fame and prestige and all that stuff is the most important thing. And it's really is in the doing.
It's that cliche that it's the journey, not the destination. Like you have to be able to, you have to have the food, clothing, shelter thing handled one way or the other. But we kind of, the large collective, we kind of take a big old crap on people who do things that they're passionate about and they don't get paid or become the biggest and the best. I saw a person on Threads, which is a social platform. I just love Threads. It's such a civilized environment. It really is. It's so friendly and it's just full of Swifties. I just love it. But I saw someone on Threads who said a guy had jumped into her comments and made fun of her because she didn't have very many followers. And she was like, I just don't understand why you think that way. Like, there are 52 people listening to what I say. Where else can I go in this world where 52 people are listening to me? And isn't that just exactly the right attitude and the right idea? Think of all the people you know who they go to work every day, and then they're into woodworking. Or they're into making their own stained glass, and maybe they have a little Etsy shop, and maybe they don't. And you'll see people, because I'm on social media all the time, so I see the best and worst of humanity 24/7. And I'm on like 4 or 5 different platforms, so I'm telling you, I see the best and worst of humanity. Somebody will post something that they've made, and there'll be a really snarky comment like, "What a waste of yours and everyone's time. Who's ever going to pay you for that?" Where did we make the turn where we just got so twisted up that we've decided that if it ain't bringing in $1, it ain't worth a damn? Think of how many people you know, Lamar. Think of how many of your guy friends that you've met along the way who have a little shop in the garage.
Yes, absolutely.
They make things,
Absolutely.
right? They make things. Their work isn't in a museum and nobody's offering them $1 gazillion for it. But are you telling me they're wasting their time?
Nope, they're not, because they love doing it. I got a couple of friends. I would give anything to be handy, handy with anything besides my mouth. I would, because they do woodworking and they make the coolest stuff. And I'm amazed every time. And, they'll give us a little, they'll make some here. I mean, but the artistry, and I'm just thinking how accomplished that must feel to start off with just a piece of raw wood and turn it into something that is nice. I mean, I think it's awesome. I really do.
I'm with you. Like every day I sit where I work, I sit facing an entire wall of bookcases that my husband made for me. And they're beautiful. They're floor to ceiling. They're different. The wood is gorgeous, different. It's designed really cool, different dimensions. I mean, it's just this beautiful piece of work to me that I sit here and look at it and I'm like, you made that. Like, yeah, I write a podcast.
Yeah.
I assure you, if all hell comes crashing down, we can't dismantle my podcast and burn it and stay warm the way we can your bookcases.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Sheri, I put the music and the sound effects on your podcast.
It's true.
There's another claim to fame.
This is how good an actor is. Which part did you play? Was it the Duchess de Bourgogne in our Enema King episode, where you were not just a lady, but you did a French lady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, Sacre bleu!
I was like I was doing one of the Monty Pythons doing women in their sketches.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
I think we all know what a heart surgeon must feel like. We're doing God's work. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what we're doing.
Well,
there's no doubt about it.
Do you know what, though? How many times have people said that? I can't.
That's true.
I'm always surprised when we have a doctor listening to the show, because they think, oh, they listen to this stuff. They listen to this podcast. What? I can't believe that. They're at doctor. And they're going, I couldn't do
Well,
what you guys do.
I used to be amazed at that, but I got a kid that's a doctor, so I don't know.
No,
I mean,
that's so meant. The bar got lower, didn't it?
Yeah. I'm a little bit more suspect when I go to the doctor now. I'm going, God, you must be somebody else's kid, and you was pooping in your pants at one. Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah. So.
It is funny how, like, and you love your kids more than anything. You just think they're the most clever, interesting, beautiful, amazing creatures ever. But sometimes they'll say something or do something, and you'll be like, your mouth will say, "What a great idea! I bet you can do that." And your brain is going, "You?"
Yeah.
And our parents did that to us, and that's just part of being human. So let's go around the room. Let's do our own commencement advice for the graduates. We'll start with you, Doc. Let's go around the room and let's give the class of 2024, from the smallest to the tallest, a little piece of graduating wisdom.
You don't have to have it all figured out immediately, and don't feel pressured to have what is considered, I guess, the stereotypical life of graduate, go to college, graduate there, get a job, get married, have all the kids, and do that stuff. Because I kind of mindlessly thought that that's how my life would go for the longest time, and then it didn't, and now I'm fine with that.
And how much of that, Doc, it didn't, was you at some deep, maybe even subconscious level, steering it away from that?
Probably a lot. I can I would probably be adding to the Bob and Sheri divorce total that I attempted to get married at a young age.
Because I think sometimes we like, we're not, there are plenty of times when life just does you dirty. So luck is such a bigger part of it than any of us ever want to acknowledge. Like, luck and timing are just huge players.
Yep.
But sometimes, if we're honest in the dark night of our soul, and we seldom want to be when it comes to the social prescriptions of, you get married, you get a good job, you have kids, you settle down, blah, blah, you save, you buy a house, you cut the grass. Not everybody wants that, but they're afraid to say it out loud, because what kind of person wouldn't want those things, right?
But the subtext to that is always, and then you'll be happy.
And then you'll be happy. But there are people that don't want that. Yeah. That's not what they're wired for. And I think that they deliberately steer themselves away from it, while denying maybe to themselves that they're doing that, because there is more than one way to be happy. There is more than one recipe. How about you, Lamar? What's your advice?
Perseverance. Honestly, I believe perseverance trumps talent. It trumps luck. It trumps a lot of things. If you just refuse to quit, because you're going to stumble and you're going to fall. I used to tell my kids, hey, falling, not a problem. Failure will teach you 10 times more than success will teach you. Success doesn't really teach you. Failure is what teaches you. But it can only teach you if you don't quit. And that's just whatever you want to do, no matter what nobody tells you, don't quit. That's it. Stay with it. Hey, it took me 30 years to get this job.
And you used to ride in a unicycle in a parade dressed as a clown. You had Willie Talk, the ventriloquist. You always had a bent towards show business. You were always wired.
I did.
You were wired for this, and you have the talent and ability for it.
But I never quit calling, and they never quit answering, so it worked out all right for me. But yeah, you just, because you're going to hit some stuff, and you're going to say, oh, this is never going to work. Whoa. Just keep going. Get up and go. Keep going. Don't quit. That's it.
Yeah, you're so right. You don't learn anything, especially if you luck into some success early on in your life, and you start believing your own bullshit, right?
That's exactly right.
That's a very dangerous path to be on.
Yeah.
You really don't learn from the things you get right. How about you, Max? What would your advice for the class of 2024 be?
Don't wait for anyone, family, friends, spouse, anybody. Don't wait for anyone's approval or permission to follow your heart. And perseverance and enthusiasm.
They won't give it to you.
No, they won't.
Yeah, they won't give it to you.
No.
You have to do that.
Lamar was talking about perseverance, and I think that is a really big one, because I had some success working in this business when I was young, but I had reached a point where I thought, I don't think this is happening for you. I don't think this is happening. And then I got a call, and I got to move to work for a radio station. And then just a few years later, ended up here with Bob and Sheri. And I think that it was that perseverance. That was the idea of, I was working 7 days. I worked 3 part-time jobs. I worked as a TV Shoppers Channel as a host. I worked as a news talk station as an anchor, and I worked at an urban radio station as a DJ. I mean, I was really cobbling a
little bit of everything.
So a little bit of everything. I was kind of cobbling a living together. And
did you have a cool DJ name?
No, I was just Max.
Dang.
Is that not cool enough by itself? I would think that would be cool enough all by itself.
I guess it is, but when I hear Doja Cat and all the other kind of stuff.
The last thing that I'll say is, even if you follow your heart and you can't make a living at it, at least you'll have an avocation that you can always put your heart in, and nobody can take that away from you. Or you might get lucky like me, and you might be able to make money at one part and have the avocation too. And that's, I mean, how fortunate can you get?
You're right about having the avocation, because having something that you love and that you're passionate about, and that you do in your own time at your own cost, it would be great to be paid for it, right? But just the fact that exists, that is something that keeps the fire lit inside you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's my piece of advice. And you might go your whole life and never be tested with this. But if you come to a spot where you are faced with 2 choices, and one of them is the right thing, and it's going to be hard, and it comes with a price. Maybe you have to stand up for someone and risk your own safety and security. Maybe you have to be the person that pushes back against the abuses that are rolling toward your family or coworkers' ways. You have to be the person who does what's right instead of what's easy. Do the right thing, even though it's the hard thing. And here's why. Not because you're going to be a hero or you're going to get credit or everyone's going to think you're awesome. Because most of the time when you make that choice to do the right thing, it's a lonely decision. And you feel a little bit sick inside, because you know it's going to come with a cost, and the cost is going to come off your hide. But you know in your heart it's the right thing, and you know that you will not really be able to live with yourself if you don't do it. That's the right thing, not the thing where everybody goes, well, isn't he the most awesome dude? The right thing is a lonely place. But if you choose the right thing, you'll be clear after that. It's when you choose the easy thing that you begin that long, slow slide. And what you're sliding away from is yourself. You're becoming alienated from yourself. You may think that by doing the easy thing, you saved your ass or your job or some drama or a conflict. But when you take that step away from what's right toward what's easy, you leave yourself behind. And you are all you have, class of 2024. You are the one person that's going to be by your side every step of the way. You're going to be your biggest cheerleader and your harshest critic. You're going to be your best friend and your worst enemy. But you're always going to be there. Don't leave yourself behind by doing what's easy instead of what's right. Now go forth. Throw your caps in the air, all of you graduates. Our website is BOBANDSHERI.com. We sure do thank you for listening to the Oddcast, because I promise you, if you're not listening, then we got 4 people talking to themselves, and it's pudding and crayon time, okay?
Hey, listen, we entertained each other. That's all that's important, right?
Yeah.
That's right. We don't care. We're having a good time.
Is any of this real? We'll see you on the next Oddcast.